Ready to rock and roll.
Okay, well, let's call the meeting to order at 8:33. And Matt, how about leading us in the pledge?
Okay. I need allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm attending by Zoom. Is Gary in the room? Yes, okay, I see Gary. Okay, Michelle, I don't see Michelle. Ah, there's that left arm.
Oh, you're caught in between the.
Perfect.
Oh, I see now, and we're kind of split screen there.
Gary is on the left and Michelle's on the right. Okay, so Chelsea, looks like you're there. Brian?
Hello, Diane.
No Brian, okay. What about Tyler?
Present. He's here.
Great. Mickey is, I think, in the Carolinas celebrating the birth of a grandchild, so he's not going to be there. I knew Rick wouldn't be there in person. Rick, are you? No, I don't see you online either. So no Rick, but I do see Matt. Okay, so hopefully everybody had a chance to take a look at the meeting minutes. And if so, I'm ready for any amendments to it or a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve it. I'm seeing these changes. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so that's approved. Is there any member from the public there, or does anyone on the committee want to amend the agenda? Okay.
There
is public.
Public
Okay, any public comment?
comment, yeah.
Yep.
Sherry Miller, do I have to say my address or whatever? Okay, Onekama. I'd like to, there's some information about the MSU EDU community, participation of monitoring the rivers and the lakes in our communities, and I was hoping I could share it with someone here, and we could maybe put it out for the Parks and Rec, because the training's coming up at the end of April, and it's a volunteer thing, and maybe people in our environment might be interested. So,
Are you talking about, we got a letter from Amy Van Zannon?
I don't know.
Doctoral student, oh, you're talking about MSU, because we also got a letter from U of M.
So there, I found it on, I'm keyed into all of the state environmental websites, and I got a notification. I've signed up to volunteer to be an assistant climate scientist, where I can monitor the water levels and the quality of certain things. They'll change me how, and I'll do it from May to September. And you can do it for rivers and lakes.
Are
And
you
you can be
talking about the
anything.
cooperative lakes monitoring program?
Yes,
So Portage Lake is already involved. So the Portage Lake Watershed Forever Group is enrolled in the cooperative lakes monitoring program.
okay,
So they're doing that for Portage Lake. And then the township also has a lake manager that will do additional testing as well as prescriptions for treatment or invasive species. And then the conservation district is enrolled in MSU or MyCore's volunteer stream monitoring program.
okay,
So we already monitor the lower Manistee River watershed. So if you're interested in participating,
yes.
you can reach out to me at the conservation
I will.
district and I'll talk to you about it, and you can come out for our volunteer stream monitoring events.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much.
Any other public comment?
I had
Okay,
a question. Tyler, is there any tribal involvement in that stream monitoring?
The tribe does their own stream monitoring,
Uh-huh.
and the tribe keeps most of their data in-house. Kind of for their own projects, but they do various forms of stream monitoring as well.
Yeah. Dave Wallace's public comment.
Hi, Vic. I would also point out that District 10 monitors at least 2 of the creeks that flow into Portage Lake. They get interesting data. Only problem is they don't do anything with it. So I had a conversation with them at the festival last Saturday. And I've been discouraged about why they're even bothering. So.
Yeah, so the community thing, I can key it in online, like, I can just be a resident of the world and just do this. So if they have that data, they could just have a.
Well, they send it out, they send the data out. It's just, you know, when you get E. coli data on 2 streams, it's off the charts.
Something should be done.
You know,
Yeah.
it would be nice if they did, oh, look at that.
Where are those streams so I don't go?
Easy Street and Chimkey Creek.
Oh.
And they refuse to, determine whether it's, human or animal. E. coli. Because they say it's too expensive and they don't have the equipment.
That's insane.
A lot of things are.
I think there was genetic testing done for those E. coli, results. Yeah, I think, it was animal E. coli in Shimkey, at least. I'm not sure about, Easy Street. Al Taylor knows more about it. But yeah, part of that, the District 10 Health Department is, they're concerned about, contact for swimming. First and foremost, so they also do all the public beaches. But that is where, coming from streams, it's a non-point pollutant source, so finding the actual source is a time commitment, and it's something that we've kind of been talking about with the invasive species committee for the township as well. And if we can have anything done to track that upstream and see if we can find out what the actual point source is, but it is complicated.
I don't think so. And,
Do they normally, they test that every year?
Yeah, and it'll fluctuate throughout the year.
I guess if
Usually-
it rains a lot, yeah.
Yeah, usually if you get a large rain event, that's when you'll see really elevated numbers, and then it'll dissipate a few days later. So really it is, District 10 is interested in watching those
Yeah.
at public
Easy Street.
beaches, because, you know, that's when you can issue, a body contact warning, or partial or total body contact warning, and have a beach closure if needed. And then a few days later, you're fine again, so.
Yeah. In Easy Street, that's kind of an area, there's a lot of like farms or cows.
Yeah, and Shimkey comes in.
Right where all the cows
Yeah.
would be going upstream.
Yeah, so.
Interesting.
Shall we move to correspondence?
Yes.
Okay, so the first one is the Manistee Chamber Leadership Project. In the opening line of the email that I sent everybody, she said that she's not re-met with her group, but as you read through this, this is an art project, which is an all abilities art project. And near the bottom of the note, it talks about how they want to, stay within a woodlands theme, a water theme, and that sort of thing. So Michelle, I think that really fits well into yours and Jean's whole education thing, right? Where would you want to have something like that?
well, we're already working on, we have talked about putting things at North Point. That, to me, that's, that would be the best place.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. Anybody feel differently? All right, so the next one is the UM Coastal Risk Management. It's a survey from U of M that they've asked us to participate in. They mentioned that I will be getting something in the next few days. My thought was that I would like to send the survey to each of us, and rather than any one of us individually answering it, would it be better for us to have kind of a consensus response? Or, you know, maybe I'll ask them, do they want all members individually, or do they want something that comes from the township, which would mean we'd kind of do a consensus one? But any thoughts on that are welcome. Well, hearing none, then I'll bring that back up when we actually get the survey and probably send it out to everybody. And Matt, if this becomes cumbersome because of the back and forth, just let me know and I'll just have you guys take the lead.
No,
The
it seems
final,
like it's working pretty good, so.
Okay.
So far, so good.
the final one was a Libby request, and I didn't see this on the meeting notes. It was on my scribbled notes, and it may have been for the Trails meeting, but I thought I had it during our meeting. Apparently, the survey was difficult to read because it popped up in a very compressed format, like 30%, and it was not easy for all people to manage it. I asked Mark at GFA if he could send me one where the source document was at a larger 100%. He said, yeah, that makes sense. I got that the day before yesterday. I put it out on the site, and anyone can check it, but Libby said that it looks like it's okay. So I think that is a resolved issue. I guess the question I had, go ahead.
I was in there, Vic, looking around, just checking to make sure, I just wanna make sure stuff as up to date as possible. And I could go through it and look at it, so if I can do it, that means most people can do it.
Okay,
I would
well,
call
we'll wait.
myself a lower level tech guy. Maybe
Well,
like on a scale of 1 to 10, 1.5.
Well, we're gonna get you that new computer, and then you're gonna be up there like an 8.
Yes, I'm ready for that thing. I've never had anything other than an Apple, so we'll see how that goes.
Okay. One thing that I thought was interesting is how the AI took notes with a recap and the next steps. As far as the, I'm down to prior month assignments, and I'm just going to go through them from the minutes. I didn't remember, but Michelle, were you going to be doing a draft letter for Paul, John, and Andrea that we were going to give to Jennifer?
I was beaten to the punch. They've already all gotten letters.
Jennifer sent the letters out?
They didn't know. I'm assuming.
Wow, that's very interesting. Okay, because I haven't had any conversation with anybody about that other than it was brought up at a board meeting 2 months ago. Okay, well, then the next one was brainstorming a volunteer appreciation reception. I know we just kind of talked about that, so that's not really an assignment, but Michelle, is there anything else you want to talk about with respect to that?
No, until Paul and Jane are back in town. That's
Okay.
on hold.
Okay. Next one, I already fixed Trails PDF. The next one is Vic to send an email to Tyler about the invasive species. We're moving down the road on that. Michelle to reach out to Tree Research and Education Endowment Fund regarding their bike tour. Was that you, Michelle? I didn't think that was yours.
No, that's not me.
No, that
I
was,
believe that's
Vic, that was me.
Yeah, Dave, at last
easy to get us
month's
confused.
meeting, we talked about it, and I mentioned to
I
Mickey.
see the resemblance.
No, I can get you.
Still there, Vic?
Yeah, this was brought up at last month's meeting when you had sent me that note, and I asked Mickey about, whether they could use the village, and he seemed to be very receptive to that. We had a lot of discussion about, maybe we could actually do something, something at Glen Park, really make an event of it. But I don't really remember whether anything concrete came out of it, whether there was a next step and who had that next step. Somehow or another, the AI said,
I remember.
Yeah. We're
Somehow they-
remembering.
You refreshed my memory, and Brian was here, and I think what I had suggested is that Glen Park, or somebody suggested Glen Park was right nearby, and so Brian was gonna talk about doing a bird walk or a guided thing there. Not about trees, about birds, but we do have trees there too.
Yeah, you can tie it
So
together.
that was the point, is that Glen Park is nearby, close enough to walk. We wanted to do something. That's the closest township park.
Is there someone that has a relationship with that group? I think Tyler, they were also talking to you, right?
Yeah, so they reached out to the conservation district first, and that's actually where Dave entered. They had emailed Josh Shields, our forester, and Josh gave them a bunch of recommendations for areas in Manistee County. And that's how they've reached out now through Dave to the township. But me at the conservation district will be doing something in the city of Manistee discussing our urban and community forestry grant. So I'll be down there when they're stopping through. And I tried to do a little digging the other day, but their website wasn't working. But you can actually see the entire route now on a map. So it kind of shows their stopover points and what they're doing. But the essential premise of the whole thing is to raise awareness for urban and community forestry, and funding as well. Let me see. I think, is it further down on the agenda too? Are we
Yes.
gonna talk about this
New
more?
business.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, I think I
talk
have
about
it there again, yeah. So
Okay.
you might just defer till then?
Yeah,
Okay. There was another note about Michelle to prepare and share the written process of Port St. Lucy's project life cycle for the next meeting. I know we talked about that, but and I mean, we had a lot of discussion about, using their format, public involvement and that sort of thing. But I don't know that there was a specific to do.
Michelle stepped out of the room.
Okay. The notes also say Parks and Rec team to discuss ownership and potential resurrection of the Glen Park Eagle View projects. I've added that into our open items list. And then we talked about storage. I think that's going to come up again. And Tyler, did you ever bring the handicap sign to the township office?
I've got it with me today.
Perfect. Okay. So you can either leave it with Michelle or leave it in the mailbox if it fits there. And when I'm around, I'll go ahead and reinstall it. Okay, so I'm going to move off of the assignments from last month. I think we've done the correspondence. Now I want to move to Village Township joint efforts. And again, that's Mickey, who's not here, and Michelle, and we can go into ad hoc history, education, and all that. So Michelle, ball's in your court. What's up?
Mickey and I have not connected, haven't been up north in a long time, so hopefully when he's back in town and I'm in town, we can connect on the Village Township joint efforts. Ad hoc history, the plaque has been delivered to Macbeth. They say that they will have it up before they open Memorial Weekend. Once they do, then I'll send out the letters to the other potential plaque sites. Have had a little bit of back and forth with the thrift shop, so that's actively moving forward. The education program, Jean is working with the conservation district with Catherine there. They're going to be doing a program for the youth, and the she has not finalized what other youth activities she'll do there. I am in contact with and meeting with the Manistee Library Children's librarian today to work on the special education field trip, which is going to be May 21st. And Gary and Matt are going to help me connect and see if we can't get K through 2 out to also participate in the story walk and events on May 21st as a field trip. The materials are still all at Dave's barn. I am going to need to access it, so as far as storage of event materials, it sounds like for now they're just going to hang out there. Dave didn't have an issue with us coming to his barn to work on our projects there. Jean is working on the one Onekama, that's going forward. And Conservation District website seedling sale.
I think we're all
Oh.
up to speed on that, right? I mean,
Yeah, we just
It's-
have to pick them up and pay.
Mhm.
yeah, and that's all budget approved. So, okay.
Well, but going along with that, there is, we have to purchase the cages that are gonna go with those seedlings, so that needs to be done this month. Right?
Yeah,
'Cause
is it, are you purchasing the
ones you
mesh
recommend.
tubes?
No, you recommended actual,
Cage.
looks like metal cages.
Yes.
I think what was on the budget, you had mesh tubes. Are they
No.
like the 7-inch? Cause the mesh tubes are different from the solid rigid tubes that you see. They're like,
Whatever it was you
kind of
emailed
like a
me,
corrugated.
I thought they were
plastic.
metal. Okay,
No, I mean,
whatever they were that you sent me is
Yeah.
what went in the budget.
if it was from one of the, like if it wasn't Family Farm and Home or Tractor Supply, then it was probably the mesh tubes.
Okay.
If it was
Yeah.
Plantra or Tree Pro or something like that, it
Okay.
would be mesh.
Yes, but those need to be ordered so that we have them here in order to put the trees in when they do the project, so. There's a bunch of different items that need to be purchased as soon as we're able to start purchasing.
And I don't know if I told you, I told Vic, I think you had stepped out when we had the budget meeting, but I had him up the budget because those mesh tubes actually require 2 stakes as well
Okay,
to support them. So you'll have to order double the amount of stakes that you do tubes.
okay,
How many trees
It's
are you
perfect. I did make sure that I updated the budget and doubled those number of stakes. So whatever was agreed to in the past, Michelle, if you need to take steps to order it, go for it.
okay.
Okay, ad hoc wetlands. We said Brian is not there, right?
Correct.
Okay, so what I can say is that Brian received some correspondence from Claire, who said she was working on some cost estimates because they're getting ready to work on fundraising feasibility, which I find absolutely exciting. It's on their radar, so that's great news. The second item is that I asked Ed and CC'd Matt to try to get in contact again with consumers so that we can have an on-site meeting. Because that's one of the things that GTRLC wants us to do, along with another thing, encroachments, which we've not done anything on. But it sounds to me like we're moving forward. And Matt, unless you disagree, I thought besides having our team involved, I want to keep Ed involved because he's a former board member of GTRLC. That gives us 2 board members working with them, and I think that experience would be great. So
Sure.
that's where we are on ad hoc wetlands.
Okay.
Communication, web assignments, thanks to Michelle. She made lots of suggestions, and she and I spent some time last Thursday updating the website. Nothing monumental, just more cleanup so that we don't look bad. And then there are the new items for the site, and everybody, I think, got those as part of their package, and we can go through those. And Michelle, I think you also saw that Rick sent you a reply
Yep.
with some of his ideas. So I don't think there's any emergency item that we get on the site, but I think it's great that we're beginning this discussion so that we can, continue to make some improvements. So just for ease of working it, Michelle, do you want to take the lead on discussing the various items?
Sure, the volunteer application, I did get some feedback on that. Anybody have anything else? No, okay. I did want to talk a little bit about the question of how we vet volunteers. Once we put an application on the website, it's not based on referral, so we may not know someone who applies. And Matt and we had talked about what type of vetting we want to do once someone applies. Gary was supposed to check with the school district about how they handle it.
They have a thing called, I'm sure Onekama has it too, it's called iChat. And we would just have to check with them to see if they would allow us to, so each school district has like a portal, And usually there's one point person, like probably the secretary of the superintendent's office or something. They are the ones that can, you email them like the information. And when I was doing it, all you needed their full name, their date of birth. And it was like maybe driver's license number, I think, or social security. And then that would give you, and it was free. Except for the people that were paying for the portal. So at the school, we had one in the superintendent's office. And any administrator, if we were doing a field trip or somebody wanted to help with the volleyball team or whatever, they had to get iChatted. That doesn't give you like stuff that's, if they're, I don't know, like if they're currently in court or whatever, it wouldn't give you that information, but it would give you anything that's logged in history.
So a little bit of background, we have never done any kind of I'm sorry, I don't know how to. We have never done any true vetting of any volunteers because it's always been, well, I know this person and they're good. The opportunities or the occasions when people would interact, particularly with youth, would be our children's series, which we really don't have a lot of volunteers. We do have volunteers the day of the field trips.
I would be shocked if the school would let you have a field trip without having the people working in it.
I know it, actually, Jean and I have never been background checked either.
Oh,
So that's kind of a question is how do we feel about that? As a committee, is that, we're a small town. It's kind of just been small town, like, hey, I raised my hand and therefore I can go.
when I was in sixth grade, the guy that was the custodian at the Arcadia school was molesting me.
Right.
Well, I've been,
So I think it happens everywhere.
I know it happens everywhere, so.
So a quick question on iChat. So this is a government-run program, correct?
I
mean, I'm
don't know
looking at
who
it right
runs it,
now.
but
Official
iChat is what
website of the state of Michigan.
we had been using it for years. And it was,
So you're looking it up?
Yeah.
and I don't know how much it costs. I just know the district paid for it.
Yep.
And anytime we had any field trip, like if a parent wanted to come in and volunteer in a classroom because of Science Olympiad, we got their information sent to them. They did an iChat. They'd send back a thing good, or occasionally they'd say, ooh, can you come to the office? And you'd come there and there could be a page or two or three of certain things. And then you would say, ooh, probably not, I mean, the person for working with children. So it worked. I mean, and that's what we used for years. I'm assuming they still do.
I think it's run through
Yeah,
the Michigan State.
It
I
is.
believe it is.
it is. It's run
Quick
through the
question.
Michigan State Police.
So I have a question. Michelle, item 6, it talks about how would you like to volunteer? Lead an event, event assistance, gardening, park maintenance. If we just did something like gardening, park maintenance, then we don't even need to worry about vetting, right? It's only in the event that you're going to have event assistance or lead an event. Is that right?
Minors, right?
I would say anything
Minors
with
are-
kids, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, the only time you have.
but are you saying we don't take, like?
No,
we
what
don't
I,
have-
here's my concern. My concern is that the whole vetting process is something that, needs to be thought through. But if we just started by putting a volunteer thing up there that was for something that didn't involve, kids and such, like gardening, park maintenance, that sort of thing, it would allow us to at least get it up and see how things are working. And then as we vet the whole process of vetting, then, maybe we could add something to it. But as just a way to get started, if we want to keep it simple, that's just a thought. The other thought is we can just, not put it out there, get this whole thing vetted. But I just wanted to throw that out there for discussion.
Just wonder what the school's responsibility is there.
That's like Gary was,
I'm
did
not
you
familiar
reach out
with
to
the
them?
policy. I'll check it out when I.
Cause that's like even one Onekama day
Right, we
You
have, that's true, you're right, that's
volunteers.
another one.
all over, and you've got kids going to different places.
Yeah, I don't know how, one day volunteers on and off. I don't know if there's even a vetting process for that.
Mhm.
Like if you're
iChat.
taking the kids
Yeah.
on a field trip with the school bus and a couple of parents wanna go along with you.
They have to, jam.
In the past, we have.
I'm shocked.
But
I will
I
tell you,
didn't,
I will tell
I
you, with
led
the
a
school,
group, so.
I saw something in the PLA and wanted to be a reader for the school. Now, this is me going onto their grounds. But they had no idea who I was or anything, and I just showed up. And they took me down to the second grade classroom and I read the books and I left.
Well,
No one asked to see a
Catherine
driver's
might know
license.
more about this, cause we were trying to figure this out as well with her going into classrooms. But I think where she ended up was that if it's in classroom, like it's the school's responsibility. If we're taking kids out into the field, then we have our own protocol, but
Well,
Catherine would know more, so maybe she, cause I know she looked into iChat in different realms, so. I can have a conversation with her and see where she ended up and bring that
Yeah, I
back.
think we should also need to have a conversation with, well, the
With
interview.
the school.
I'll go with something.
Yeah, and then it comes back to also, like, it won't always be me and Jean. As a policy, probably the programming person and the events person should have their background checked.
Mhm.
And I, Jean and I have both said we have no problem doing it, just to start the policy and see how it goes. We can be the test case. So it hasn't been done in the past. We do have this field trip coming up. They get permission slips and the school seems to handle everything. It's just that, the times they are a changing and
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring the discussion up because we've never had the discussion about volunteers. And we do want to get more volunteers.
And it's super simple.
Okay.
And it could be an issue of policy, though, when I come up policy is different than Manistee, but I just know only a few short years ago, if you were taking a field trip to say Sleeping Bear Dunes, and you as a parent wanted to be a volunteer to ride the bus up, guess what? You got IGN.
Yeah.
So
Really?
even that simple of a thing was, so.
Okay, so we'll keep working on the volunteer.
Yeah.
The decision is to either not put it up or to put it up with a modification. What do you guys think?
Well, I think to Vic's point, you could have it up and just,
Okay,
if they select they wanna do, volunteer with kids.
Just put
That,
an asterisk in there.
that triggers further
okay.
things that have to be done,
Potential
yeah.
Screening.
Yeah.
A couple things on iChat, if I could just mention, it does not require driver's license or
Okay.
social security.
It's just
It is
first and last.
name, date of birth, and it goes into the Michigan State government records for courts. It also says here that for government agencies registered with an agency code are not charged
Oh.
for their requested searches of employees and volunteers.
So we
We
can
are
give
a
a year.
government, yes, so we are, so it would be not a fee. It would be a registration for an agency code. If that helps, moving us.
Yeah, that helps. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, okay.
Mhm.
And I knew it was super simple.
And it's very simple.
Yeah,
And
but to Vic's point, we don't wanna start vetting people who volunteer to help clean up the park, things like that, do we?
No.
No need for that.
No, we're just talking about if you're gonna do something.
Children, something connected with
Yeah.
children.
It would be both a protection for the school and for the township.
So, but that comes back around, so we have volunteers, but we also have like Jean and myself and Mariah. And I don't know, the committee members, that's a township level discussion as far as who all should be background checked, like. To get
I
on the
mean-
committee, should you be background checked, but that's a different.
Well,
So speaking of committee, I just grabbed the committee application, from the township and I made it into a form. For the committee application one. So.
Yeah, that's
feedback.
pretty easy. We'll just,
Yeah, I
we'll
saw
just
that.
post that one.
Okay, and then, the always open feedback survey, I really think that this would go a long way to encourage the public. To, really trust that we are constantly taking feedback. So I didn't know if anybody read that one. That was, based on one that I did a while back, plus some modifications based on some other, I like to grab stuff from other people's work. So did anybody?
smart.
Yeah. The always open feedback survey, did anyone have any comments,
have
questions?
that.
That's the one that, every time I open my thing, it starts digging, so I apologize. That is the 2025, the actual title is 2025 Onekama Township Parks and Recreation Parks Feedback Survey. Please select, it starts with, please select the Onekama Township Park that you or members of your household visit. Yep. Most often. Oh, you got it now.
Yeah.
Oh, I got it.
So,
you.
so this is one that I really think we need to spend some time thinking about because it really is sort of a strategic driver, and it's going to come up somewhere in the agenda in a few minutes. But one of the things that I was thinking about is in the last several years, we've made some accomplishments, budgetary things, like, for example, at North Point Park, we repaved the parking lot, we repaved the entire walkway. You know, we created a little park in Carden and that sort of thing. And I was just wondering, on the website, should we have an area that talks about accomplishments or, you know, what we've done in the last few years? And then, of course, that also bleeds into this a little bit. Should we be asking people whether those things are important to them? So anyway, I just bring that up for some more discussion about this feedback survey, because I really think the feedback survey is something we need to spend a lot of time on, make it as, and again, I'm not criticizing what's here now, but this is really a strategic thing that I want to spend some time on. So anyway, please comment on the whole thing about including accomplishments.
I would say that news and I think anytime we do anything with tax dollars, we should be putting it out in the news and announcements. I think people like to know how their tax dollars are being spent. And I have talked before about having an actual physical sign that we can stick in the ground near something that's just been done and said that, because they do this down in Oakland County parks, your tax dollars at work. And then you just kind of, you know, the dry erase, right, repaved pathway or whatever. And then you leave it there for whatever amount of time you decide, 2-3 weeks, and then you pull it up. And the next time you spend money that they can see, like at Carden Park, we had a great opportunity to put a sign there that says your tax dollars at work, you know, so that people can see that we're being good stewards of the money. So I really like that. Yes, we should be doing more of that.
It's like a little section that could drop down or
And-
something that says like, top accomplishments.
No, there is already.
But I mean,
news
just,
announcement there.
but just keep updating it.
Yeah. It's there. And
So
it just,
there's two things. First, I heard Michelle say we should always include this in the news and announcements section. And so that's one thing. But then the other side is what I think, Matt, you're referring to. We should also have a list that doesn't come off that says, here's all the things that have happened over the past however amount of time.
oh, okay.
Yeah, just put like, if you could put a date on it, I guess, and then somebody that's perusing through there could look and say, wow, there's 16 things that they've done in the last 5 years or whatever these guys are really, you know.
That's a good idea, put the date behind it.
Can I make a suggestion that I know you want to study the survey, but can we just get this survey out there? It is one that I copied somebody else's paid for survey for the most part on that one. Could we get it out there just to start trying it? And since it's to be a perpetual one, see how it works and then adjust it based on, rather than waiting another year, because like I said, that one was done, I think in 2022 or 23, and we used it one time. And the idea was we were gonna do it we were gonna send it out every year, but I like the idea, and again, I'm copying somebody else, of just having that link there all the time. You know, because it is so easy to change these things. It takes me less than 5 minutes. So we could put one out there and get some trickle feedback where 1 or 2 people happen onto it. And then we can continue to improve it rather than waiting till it's perfect. And then I will say the same thing, moving on, the North Point Park Shelter Survey. If we're gonna do any movement on that project this year, that one's gotta get up ASAP. So.
Yeah, we haven't got to that one yet. Were Rick's suggestions with respect to the overall survey or one of the other ones? I don't recall off the top of my head.
He had comments on a couple of them, and I got it very late last night, and everything that I read, I thought was good feedback of that.
So
But the
I
one
mean,
thing that I noticed when it goes into printed out form, it doesn't show that, like, if you say I support it, it goes to why do you support it and skips why do you not support it. On paper, it looks like you go through every question, but if you actually take the survey, there is some branching in there, so it's sort of a little odd that way.
So does
So
it, if somebody complains about, like, say they are very dissatisfied with restrooms, is there an offshoot that says what,
And, okay,
what
so
parks are you talking about? Like, so we actually have something that we,
that's
So
a
you know
great
which
idea, I'm
restroom
gonna
is
add that,
bad
yeah.
or-
So you just, that's on the feedback survey,
yeah,
I can do that.
okay.
And you could also, could you label the survey trial survey? So it's like draft.
Why does it matter?
Yeah, it's not really a trial, I mean.
Well, you're saying instead of waiting to check it out even more, just put on there, like,
Well, I guess what
we're
I'm saying
trying
is,
something new.
Yeah,
well, in a description, we could
Yeah,
certainly
that's what I'm
say,
saying,
hey, we've decided to have this up here, we want your feedback not
Yeah.
only in the survey,
We're
but on
trying
the
something
survey.
new.
Yeah.
Let us know how it goes.
Yeah.
I think it's fine to post an online survey that's gonna say, like, when we send out conservation district surveys for our strategic plan, like, it goes out in paper mailing copies, and you're only gonna have one response, one version going out. This can be changed at any time.
Yeah.
If we
So
decide
worry
later
about
we wanna add something, then we just go in and add it, and we do another push on social media saying, hey, go take our survey kind of thing, and then we get new responses with more information, so.
Like if everybody who's in this meeting today were to take it, we would get probably a good amount of feedback, like, hey, that question was confusing. Or, you know, did you think about adding this? And that's what I'm saying, let's put it out and knowing that it's really easy
It's
to
a work in
change.
progress.
Yeah, and like you said, we could preface it with,
We're excited to try this.
Just
new
a little
thing.
input, I think that if it gets published, you will get the feedback and get to. I've learned
Whether you
that.
want it or not.
I've learned that if once you do, and why not, and get this started, and then you can adapt. And so I
Yeah.
support the getting it out there, because you will get feedback pretty quickly on what you could improve.
yeah,
Otherwise, we're sitting here thinking, what if we fine tune
Overthinking
this
it,
to
yeah.
try to
Yeah.
prevent it from happening? We kind of want it to, because then you get the feedback that you need to improve things.
and surveys are always subject to it,
Yeah.
adapting from year to year, you know, it's never,
But you're always finding new
it's
stuff.
never something fixed.
The last question of the feedback survey, there it does look
Put it
like a
up.
typo though. In just Onekama Facebook page, it has one comma dash, I don't know if that's supposed to be there.
oh, and how do you get your information?
What sources do you use to
Yeah.
find?
Yeah.
Yeah. I assume it's just supposed
One
to say.
comma
Onek-
dash Onekama is the actual website,
Oh, is
according
it?
to Al. If you, I'm not on Facebook, somebody else will have to test it, but
No longer.
Well, I think if it's not an actual
it is an actual dash.
clickable link
I
though,
can check it. What is it called?
One
because I think
comma.
most people are just gonna know it as one. Or as the Onekama Facebook.
Well, there's
page.
two Onekama Facebook
One
pages,
comma.
there's the community connection, and then there's the one comma dash Onekama. And I'll check with Al, because that's, I'm seeing,
Okay.
that's his, I'll double check on, make sure I have that right.
Yeah, and that's,
You know what, I don't have community connection there, and I don't have website there.
I was just gonna point that out, I didn't see the.
That's because this one.
Yeah,
wasn't-
that's exactly
one of
what
those
it is.
existed.
One
I think you
comma
did,
and a
yeah,
dash. And then
one comma dash, oh, Onekama.
there's a one comma rocks.
No, that's not.
No, about
and then
Okay.
maybe it makes sense too in that question, because I see onekama.info website as a clickable link in
Yeah,
the
I
survey.
don't know why that does that, I didn't create that.
Oh, yeah, that's the Onekama info with a link on there.
Maybe it makes sense just to also give them links to things.
Hyperlink it.
Yeah.
So I
Okay.
want to try to recap where this whole conversation has gone. I'm understanding that we should go ahead and put something out, and we can make modifications later. I had sent a request that included in what resources we also include the township website. And now I'm hearing that we want some links on this where links are available. But I guess as I think about that, do we really want them leaving the site to go somewhere else
No.
and possibly get distracted?
I didn't make that a link, so I'm not, I'll have to go back and see
You
why.
should be
I
able to
can,
write.
but
and
I can
remove
fix that.
hyperlink.
Yeah,
I can fix that. So then does this group agree that Michelle and I can put something out there based on the input that we have today, including some input by Rick via email and the other comments, like maybe including something about accomplishments and that sort of thing. But it's okay with this committee for Michelle and I to move forward to put something out there.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
All right. Should we have any, okay, we haven't discussed the last one, which was the application for appointment to our committee. We sort of mentioned it. Is there anything else we need to talk about that, or just, let's just put it up?
well, that's the application for all the committees is the way that I set it up.
Right.
Just to be clear, it's not just for, I could take the other options off and make it just for this, but I think that's a township or, man.
Oh, that was for any, to be on any
And I
committee.
copied, like, for example, Chelsea just applied to be on this committee.
Yeah,
The township might want to have people, they can use it,
yeah,
you
I
know,
would
so,
think they'd want it,
okay.
because it seems like there's a lack of. Usually, I don't want people wanting to do stuff.
Well, okay, but my point, I think before we put something out there that invites people to other committees, I would want to have the board say that they want us to do that. I
I
think that
agree.
that for us to put something out to volunteer for our committee, that's up to us. I don't think the board would disagree with us doing it, but I think we should give them notice that we're doing it before we do it. And they might say, putting it on your site is not, we should put it on our site. But again, let's let them make that decision. For our purposes, let's just have Parks and Rec, and then we can just do it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, I can make that easily.
And then if the township wants to adopt that similar format for all the other stuff, you know?
North
Okay.
Point survey, did anyone have any comments on that one? North Point Park, get back to it.
New shelter. Yeah, I'm sorry, I missed that one. That's right. So,
And so it's interesting, I will bring this up. One of the things Rick said is, I used the word new, and he said potential. It's funny, because I originally started with potential. The one thing I would like feedback on is we have one very small shelter there already, so I wanted to be clear that they're talking about one in addition to the one.
The
So
little gazebo thing.
there's a little nuance between the word potential and the word new.
can you use both words?
Potential new. There you go.
Additional.
Additional bonus. There's lots of good words.
okay, is that, or can we move to
Any
the,
other? That's it? So we're good to go with the shelter survey? Okay,
Yes.
all right, thank you.
all right, other township board meeting actions. I don't recall whether I mentioned this last month or not, but I was supposed to. There was a citizen recommendation to the township board that members of committees should receive $100 payment in recognition of the time that they devote. And I was supposed to get feedback from our group so that it could have been put in the budget, but I did not. I personally, well, I don't want to, for the group, why don't you discuss whether there's interest in your part to receive $100 payment for your volunteer efforts?
I would decline it.
Is that a one-time?
A one-time $100.
No, I don't need it.
I'd rather see that, I mean, in my opinion, I'd rather just let the parks have it, you know what I mean? If they,
Yeah.
if the $100 meant we get a new trash can, I'd be.
Plus then it would have come like a W-2.
That I don't, yeah, I
Nine,
don't
you
know.
You have to declare it on taxes, I don't know.
But for $100, I mean, that's just my humble opinion from Matt. Is I would, if I got the $100, I'd probably hand it right back to whomever gave it to me and say, can you put this down to the parks budget? But then you're right, I have to pay tax on it or some crazy thing. I don't.
I don't know.
I can't physically accept payment because I'm on the clock as conservation district staff.
Just alcohol.
It's a nice thought.
Yeah.
Nice.
And my board chair is sitting in the back of the room.
Yeah.
Watching you.
So
Yeah, but he doesn't come to all the meetings.
Well,
Large sack of coins.
As a new committee member, that's what I came to Onekama for, was to be paid, so I'm just joking. No, I would
Okay.
decline.
I'm going to express appreciation, but we're going to decline that. Next is old unfinished business. We've had lots of discussion about strategic plan files. Rick had sent a format. Michelle has the 10-year plan format that we've used in the past. And so, you know, I believe that what we're lacking is what we're not lacking is forms that we can use. We've got plenty of forms that we can use. As always, we just need people to volunteer and take projects. And you know, I think we should move to the discussion of those projects as opposed to the forms. But I don't want to make that assumption if anybody feels like we should have an in-depth discussion on the actual plan format, et cetera. And so again, I'll defer to the group on that.
First of all, I can't take credit for, I don't know, you guys looked at it, but that's actually Lara Tremor Spears's work. She did quite a bit of strategic formatting of plans when she was with the committee. So I don't want to look like I'm trying to take credit for somebody else's work.
The next thing on the item is the DNR and MDOT recommendation to rural communities as it relates to grant strategies. And I think that my memory serves me, it is that Rick attended a meeting, and it was, I think, similar content to a meeting that Michelle and I attended last year, wherein we learned that we are competing for grants against large communities with, paid employees of 15 in their department and such. And one of the things that Rick mentioned is maybe we should have all of our grants written, because oftentimes these grants just appear with a deadline. And certainly I think that would be a great idea. And we do have $10,000 in the budget for grant writers. But to me, it gets back to, as a team, which projects would we want to be having those grants written? For example, Glenn, a lot of the work has been done. It's a matter of giving it to the person who wants to take the lead on the Glenn project. Whether it's Eagle View, I've located that information and I could provide that to whoever it is that wants to take on that project. But I think we as a group need to decide what projects should we put into this group, and who wants to raise their hand and take the lead on it. And then, let's move forward with a plan to write a grant based on the board's agreement that we would do that. So anyway, that's my lead in for you guys to take this discussion further.
Vic, did you and I discuss putting the past engineering studies on the website? Because we could certainly add that. And here I am already talking about changing one of the surveys, but as far as prioritizing which project, that might be a nice thing to have a survey up and running for, and that would be very, very easy to do, as long as we could post the projects that the engineering is done on in some format that the public would be able to, to process easily. Because I know we have a beautiful picture of what Glen Park was going to look like if we got the money. Eagle View, same thing. I'm just throwing it out that rather than us doing the prioritizing, that's the kind of thing that a feedback survey can help with. I mean, it doesn't have to simply be the survey.
Yeah.
So let me respond to that. Didn't you mention specifically the 2012 Beckett and Rader study?
I really like that study. That's a personal favorite.
So there's two things with regard to that. First, in my files, I couldn't find the electronic copy of the full Beckett and Rader, but I did find the excerpt which specifically referred to wetlands, and we used that excerpt with the GTRLC. That particular excerpt was so huge that on my computer, it takes a long time to load. On the website, it's going to take a very long time to load. So I agree with the concept, I just don't know at a practical level how we can put a monstrous PDF out there like that. Now, that said, I think the assignments are, one, we got to get our hands on the electronic version of the original 2012 version, and I can't find that. So go ahead.
Sorry, Nick.
No,
The
go ahead.
website, shouldn't you be able to link it to a cloud saved document?
Yes.
Then you don't have to worry about it loading on the website. It would essentially just be a link on the website and it takes you to wherever the document is saved to view it. You can't do anything with it. But that's like how all of our website works. Like, you know, if people want to see a grant project or something like that that was submitted, it's just saved on my Google Drive somewhere and they click a link from the website and it lets them view it, but it's on my Google Drive, not on the actual district website, so.
Well, okay, so that's interesting. I'll have what I was doing was loading the PDF.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to load the PDF or embed the PDF in the website. You should just be able to have a link to it where it's saved externally. And that link just takes them to that external. It'll probably open a new tab on their browser for them to view it.
I'll take a look at that. I think we would put it on the township in the shared drive. Yeah, we can do that. But Michelle, you said you're meeting with Alan Saturday. Could you see whether he has an electronic copy of the full Beckett and Rader study?
Sure, the other thing we could do is just go, I can take it to Jack Pine or even here and scan it, if that's helpful.
Well,
Quality.
I'd rather have the original. I think you'd be better off
Yeah.
with the original than a scanned copy.
He might have the contact for Beckett at Beckett Raider too.
Oh, I'm sure I can find that. I mean, it's old, but I'm sure we can find a contact for Beckett and Rader. Yeah, in other words, they might be able to supply the thing themselves. So, well, okay. So, I mean, where I left that was, I think we need to decide on the projects that we're moving forward on, but we're going to now talk about maybe putting something on the website. And so if Michelle Al doesn't have it, then I guess the assignment will come to me to go to Beckett and Rader to try to figure it out. And then we'll come up with some sort of strategy to talk about next month about how we're going to get it out onto the website. Any more discussion on that? All right. Matt, I think our budget was approved as submitted, don't you?
Yes, you're correct. Saying that, yeah.
So
Yeah,
Tyler,
budget
you know,
meeting on
you're
the
gonna,
We had the meeting on the 19th and we went through a whole list of resolutions and that was one of them. And, I mean, they took like a roll call vote, so the budget was approved at, I think it was the 19th of March.
yep, it was a 319 meeting and I was a little bit confused by all of the different resolutions. I didn't hear one specifically that said parks. Of course it wouldn't, but there was probably one that just said, yeah, we approved the budget as submitted. But so I think we're good to go. And Michelle, I mean, if we need to be taking action to support the events, we need to do that. And I know Tyler's working on the invasive species thing. We were asked if we could get a specific, what are you going to do for us for $5,000? So, but as far as budget is concerned, we were approved. So let's move forward. Next item I have is traffic reporting. I'd like to get with Gene when I get a chance to get back to my regular schedule, which is Tuesday through Friday at home in Onekama and weekends downstate. But when I do that, I want to take those things down, do some repair work, and then work with Jean to find out whether she and Mariah are the ones that are going to take over the reporting aspect of that. Invasive species for parks. Tyler, is there any update on that?
I sent an email to Daniel and he replied, said that he was on spring break this week down in Florida and that he'd follow up with me next week.
Great.
But he's
Okay.
excited, so.
All right, I'll grab the handicap sign and get it put up. New business accomplishments for the website. Okay, we sort of talked about that, and Michelle and I will talk about whether we include that in the survey or not. And I heard earlier that we should actually do that in both the announcement section and then maybe have a section that lists it by date.
And also, do we want to get the stick in the ground sign too? It doesn't cost much money.
You talking about this is what we did?
Yes.
sign?
Yeah, just, Vic, that would be to purchase a very small sign that says your tax dollars at work. I mentioned that earlier. To show, so you can put where the accomplishment is.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to that. I didn't catch that as a specific request, but I mean, I have no reason not to do that.
Is
But would
there,
would that sign talk about the specific accomplishment or just your dollars at work and we stick it somewhere?
You put it, well, I mean, it can be whatever you want, but what I have seen is if it's just a very general sign and it points you back to the website, you know, for more information, you know, or news and announcements. It just basically is something where you can put it and that when you do something new.
Kind of like the political signs and a little wire.
Yeah, it's a very small.
You can order them
That-
online.
Yeah, that sign, I think you would put that, what do you call that little square thing that you put on there?
QR
And then
code.
and it would link to that section that Matt talked about that had, here's our accomplishments, and they'd have to figure out. Yeah, okay, so yeah, that's great.
I got my political signs on a thing called Signs on the Cheap. It was
Well,
just a
I mean,
website.
I'm working with Jack. I mean,
Oh,
we'll
okay,
see
there-
what they
Yeah,
do.
I just,
well,
they were cheap.
if you do a QR code, though, that means you're gonna have to have multiple signs that point you to different
At our,
projects, or you're gonna have to have like a page dedicated to updates, and that page changes as the sign moves around. Cause QR codes.
The
only
latter.
One
To one
UR,
spot,
URL. So,
yeah, I would put it probably just, I mean, that can be up for discussion, but in my opinion, I would take it to the parks page, which hopefully in news and announcements would have something there.
yeah, and even if it just takes them directly to news and announcements.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Then it
Then you
should
could
be-
kind of look around.
Yeah. But it's just a consideration.
Thank you.
Well, okay, so my thought was that it wouldn't go to news and announcements because news and announcements will be ever changing. But Matt had mentioned we were going to put some sort of accomplishments area. It would go to there and it would be by date. And obviously, I think they would see the most recent one, but it would also show them all. So that's
Yeah.
what my thought was.
Yeah, that would be more of an announcement. than
Okay.
do that.
An accomplishment, not an announcement.
Yeah, or whatever you want.
Okay. That's all easy.
So now comes back the Tree Research Education and Endowment Association. Tyler, the question I have is if they've created the route, do they show a stop in Onekama?
So their route, just shows the overnight stops. So they have, riding day 3, which the days are, August 10th through Saturday, August 17th. So they're gonna take off Sunday. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, I assume would be day 3. They're traversing from Traverse City to Manistee. And then day 4, Manistee to Whitehall. So I would assume that Onekama would be on day 3 and they would start day 4 with me in the city. But I don't know the actual logistics of that yet. So I would think Tuesday, August 12th would be the most probable.
So there's a couple of things. One, when this first came to Dave and then on to myself, there was a question about we should probably suggest that they use the village as a stop point just because of the restroom facilities would be better. So that's question one. And then during our discussion last month, there was some additional discussion about, well, should we make a bigger deal about this? So as far as the question to question one, I think it makes sense that they would use the village as their stop point since it's right on their route and it does have bathroom facilities. And I don't think heard any disagreement from Mickey on that. And
I
then
think
question,
Mickey was gonna check with Ruth or something to make sure like, hey, we're gonna have whatever, if you give them the date, we're gonna have a bunch of these riders come in. They could set something up like a food truck or I don't know, something, but he also said to make sure that whoever takes care of the park went the day of or the day before and made sure the bathrooms are all stocked with like toilet paper and whatnot. So if they get an influx of people, they're ready for it.
I'll add that to
I just
next
heard
month's
Mickey
meeting,
talking about
'cause that's-
that. Yeah.
so that becomes something we need to count on Mickey to do as our village
Yeah.
representative.
Right.
So the only consideration that I will point out to this, so this is the tree fund, which is a tree research endowment and education fund. That's what this is supporting. The whole purpose of this ride is to raise money for that program, but also to identify good examples of arboriculture in urban and community forestry. Which I would not consider the village park a great example of that. So, and I think when Josh had brought this up to Dave, it was because Camp Tacebo was enrolled in the MEET program there, and they have, essentially credentials to support. I think that Glen Park is a much better idea of what they are, you're balancing the aspects of urban forestry within a community. It's pristine, untouched. So I definitely think even if they stop and use the facilities at the village park, there should definitely be a priority to do something at Glen Park, just for the audience itself.
I think
Well, that
Brian,
puts it right back in our lap. So
yeah, Brian was willing to work with me on it. We didn't get anywhere, but
Yeah, and part of it too is, education awareness and like if there's a bird walk at Glen Park. Brian could definitely tie that to, how urban forestry is important.
So they want to see like big trees.
It's education, so.
and Josh has a whole program he does there too, so.
Yeah.
Well, I think you should be aware that, this Jonathan Kane, who's with the tree research,
Mhm.
program. He mentioned to me that, roughly 60 to 80 riders, but they'd be coming in groups of like 2 to 5. So
It's not like hundreds of people.
So, 3 people show up at Glen Park and, you're not gonna have Josh doing a program for 3 people.
Right.
And then an hour later, a couple more.
Well, okay, so that
But we
tells
could
me
get volunteers.
a lot.
that
Okay, so
bird
number
can
one,
help.
we are supposed to have Porta John in Glen Park for the summer, if I remember correctly in our budget. So they could almost use Glen Park. Okay, so
In
they
the
could
budget.
almost use Glen Park as their stop if that's the case and we don't have a rush.
Oh,
of
here, I'm
people.
thinking of
Right,
like,
and then the second thing is we can do self-guided type.
Yeah.
Because I have those
Send them
little
an
H
email.
signs and we've done it for other things.
So
where
I
we
just wanted you to be aware that
That's great.
you're not gonna have 80 people showing up all at
All at
once.
one
That
time.
is a great point, and that makes it much more doable for us to really run a little program, self-guided
Self-guided.
in that area. And I do think people would be really thrilled to see the springs and have the history. So all I need to do is have something that I've created in Canva or PowerPoint, if you will, and print it,
A QR
laminate it, and
code.
stick it on our,
Yeah.
well, stick it on these little signs, the same
Yeah.
kind of signs I'm talking about, where we can put it out there for a day and then pull it back.
Yeah,
and just make sure the porta johns.
Absolutely. Hopefully that's yeah.
And, the reason
I was picturing like the Tour de France coming through. I don't know,
no,
for some reason in my head, I had this mob of
Thank you for
bikers.
the-
but the reason I brought this to Parks and Rec was because, August 12th, 13th, that's right in the middle of our rental season.
Right.
And, you know, I have a hard time explaining to people who have spent serious money to rent Campus Evo, who are all these bicycle riders,
Taking up.
wandering around, you know,
Yeah.
and plus the spot we had, for them, which was our stage area, there are no bathrooms there. So, you know, they'd have to walk up onto the hill and where we do have bathrooms and where we have renters and, you know, so
Yeah.
I think it'll work.
Yeah.
I mean, based on
And
what you're
just-
saying, it actually works better.
So are we talking about signage in the village? Or are we talking about, we could designate?
There'd have to be a
Glen Park?
sign telling them to head towards Glen Park on 22, and then we
I
can do
don't wanna
signage
though-
in the park.
Right.
I will say, I don't
clarification.
wanna tick off the businesses who want them to come and look at their shops too. So we gotta be careful with that.
May I say something? I love everything that we're saying, but very easily, there's several groups, gardening and all of them, right? We could put up little pop-ups and in the park, just be there as volunteers, nothing to do with you guys. And offering snacks or I don't know, things to do with cycling or something supportive, so it looks like we're actually embracing them. And then, but yeah, catch your breath, oh, go to Glen Park, right, and get them. I mean, I'll take days off work and go sit there and. be
I
a
like you.
stop.
We're gonna have a volunteer application on our website.
I know,
real soon.
I will try it, as soon as you get it there, I'm in,
Are,
okay?
are these things that we're discussing now, whatever we decide on, going to be in material that they receive, the writers? So that they know ahead of time what's available in certain places,
I would-
where to go?
I would think so.
Yeah, I would too.
But right now,
We could put something on our website and we could include the link in some documentation we send to them.
yeah, I imagine that they will have like an
For the
agenda for
material,
the
yeah.
entire day,
A map.
what each stopping point is gonna be, what they're gonna hear about, cause really the right from their website, it says, you know, the purpose is to fund research that has produced better ways to plant and care for urban trees, making them more resilient. The tour also supports education programs aimed at connecting young
Right.
people with the environment and career opportunities in green industries. So
Oh, wow.
if, you know, you want to have that be some sort of component, of their stop, even if it's just connecting them with the environment, which
Yeah,
is
there's
fine,
actually
it doesn't
curriculum out
necessarily.
there that kind of matches that.
Yeah, so that,
Project
that is
great.
kind of the goal of the ride, so.
Okay.
Is this the first time they've planned this ride?
Yeah, they bounce around, so this is the first time that it's been in Michigan, I believe, so like next year is North Carolina, they do them in the UK, they do them in. Yeah.
Oh, this is a
No,
whole
no,
nother-
this is from,
We need to do a little.
they move all over, so it's kind of a big deal that they're
We
doing
Oh,
Michigan.
Queen,
All right,
yeah.
all right, so we need like a
Shiny tree.
ad hoc committee or something.
So we need to make them have a good experience while they're in Michigan.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, well, sounds to me like we've got to have a clean porta potty. We're going to have a self-guided tour. We may put it on our website. There needs to be a sign on M22. It can talk about, there's a tour to the left, or if you just need a restroom, head straight, that kind of thing. And again,
Perfect.
all right. Well, okay, so there's a lot of work there, I think, but Michelle, you think you've got do you already have a self-guided tour?
Of that park? No.
Yes.
But Josh has a curriculum that I believe he has given me from our Onekama Days adventure walk. So I'm sure that it would not take much to take what he has done and make it into something fun for them. But I mean, hopefully Jean and maybe Chelsea or whoever is interested, Matt, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know, do we need to have an ad hoc committee or is there anything?
Well,
or
I
just
don't know
work-
that, I don't know that a committee is necessary, but I do think that we need to have specific assignments and next steps, because this sounds to me like it's kind of it's a real positive opportunity for us. I mean, we do have the porta potty. I'll move forward on making sure that, that happens. But I don't know anything about a self-guided tour. Who's going to take the lead on that?
I mean, I think,
I will work with Brian and Josh.
I
Okay.
think if you got a map of it too, because I'm just thinking people on bikes, they may or may not want to be wandering around for hours or they're.
I don't think it's
On a
gonna spend
self-guided
hours.
tour.
Right, yeah, that they're gonna
Okay.
stop quick and look around, maybe.
The walk to,
Yeah, walk.
the walk
Yeah.
to the spring
Yeah, it's
is,
not far.
like a 2 minute.
Yeah, right, that's what I'm saying, but
That's what I mean by self-guided tour. I'm not
Okay.
talking about it in depth.
Well,
Right,
as soon
Josh
as I heard,
does very in-depth stuff.
yeah, when I heard curriculum, I'm thinking,
Oh, no, when you're talking about careers in green, I'm just
Yeah,
matching it to, there's actually curriculum to Project Learning Free
Okay.
that sounds like it's exactly aligned with
Yeah.
that.
that might
We
be
don't need
overkill for.
I'm
doing
talking
it.
about, here's a great
Yeah.
example of a hemlock.
Perfect.
Here's our springs and why are they significant?
Tyler, are they, you know where they're gonna spend the night?
Manistee.
in
In
Manistee.
Manistee.
Yeah.
They're coming. from
So
the
we're
north.
sort of towards the end of the day's run.
Yeah,
So, and they're starting in Traverse City and coming down or reverse?
they start in Grand Rapids, they go up through Big Rapids
We're on the way
to
back.
Traverse City, and then on their way back, they're
Then
doing a big oval.
the dates don't match then, because we talked about August 10th through August 17th and it potentially being day 3, August 12th. And it says on the highlighted area that it says return leg rest stop at Village Park, which are we sure we're not on the return back to Grand Rapids? So we'll need to finalize that date.
Well, my first question was, who's going to be the contact of Jonathan Kane
Yeah,
at Tour de Trees?
it's can clarify for me, Tyler, you are actually representing the Conservation Club in the Manistee.
In the city, yeah.
You're looking for.
So,
Have somebody.
And yeah, I was just
contact
pulling it
person
off their
here.
website. So riding day 1 is Grand Rapids to Big Rapids. Riding day 2, Big Rapids to Traverse City. Riding day 3, Traverse City to Manistee. Day 4, Manistee to Whitehall. Day 5, Whitehall to Grand Rapids. That's what's on their website.
Okay.
So it
It's
is,
the 13th.
Yeah.
Or the 12th,
yeah, and does that match up? Cause they've got
so,
10th
the
through
12th or
16th.
so I have the 10th through the 16th. So,
So that's more days. That's,
yeah,
so I don't know, maybe they're leaving on the 11th. I'm not really
Yeah,
sure.
I'm gonna get that date.
That's why you talk to John.
Yeah,
Jonathan Kane.
Dave had a good question. Who's our lead representative for Onekama, not for the Conservation District?
I would be happy to do it. My name's Chelsea.
Thank you, Chelsea.
I could do
Yeah.
this. This would be fun, because I'm very passionate about Glen Park since I've moved here, so. That'd be
That's
cool,
great. Thank you very much. Next item is the
but I don't know how to get over to Jonathan Kane.
the
Will you
Park
be kind
Strategic
enough
Survey
to
and
link-
Professional Development
Thank you.
Meetings Update. I'm sorry, I got out of whack there.
Yeah.
Parks strategy, we've discussed the survey already. Professional development. Rick had attended a meeting that I briefly discussed with you. I think there are some other meetings that he's talking about that he's going to attend as a member of the Trails Committee. Is there anything else that on the meetings update that we need to discuss?
I wanted to bring up, so the M Parks, that you and I went to that, I am now pretty actively involved in that. And I didn't prepare for this time, but if we are interested in starting to connect with other parks departments in Knuckles North, have I mentioned this? So M Parks is Michigan Parks Association, and they break it down by region, and we are in the region called Knuckles North, and that is based on if you take I can't do it for you, it's from your Knuckles North, so it includes all of the UP and northern Michigan. And I attend meetings once a month with that group, and we were planning some field trips. We discuss things that, like yesterday they were discussing that they actually have a training for maintenance people that M Parks runs. There's a lot of really good stuff where, again, we can just copy what other people are doing. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. So I would be willing to start bringing to this meeting because it's always the day before this meeting, what was discussed at that meeting? And, do we want to start, as far as professional development, do we want to start tapping into, just for example, they were trying to do a field trip in June to the Parks and Rec in Charlevoix, and we're gonna get to go golfing in our public course, guided by the head of Parks and Rec. And we just learned from each other about staffing, about program development, about infrastructure. So I think the township is going to pay for my membership this year. So I would be happy to once a month give you a status on what they're discussing or take questions to them.
Okay, sounds like we have a plan. You're going to give us monthly updates. Okay, there's a bunch of open items. We have 7 minutes to go. The water supply at North Point, I think they're going to just get started when the weather gets right. So I imagine they're getting ready to get started again. And we ended up getting budget approval for the
Sampling,
gosh, I'm having
water sampling.
all right. Yeah, okay, so we're moving forward with that. Glen Bridge project, we haven't made any progress other than that and the Eagle View project, where I've located some of the old documentation. We now could decide to move forward on those. Those could be part of the whole discussion earlier about should we begin gathering information, writing grants? How do people feel about that? I mean, Michelle, wasn't you that said Port of St. Lucie uses a grant writing firm out of Washington, D.C.?
I did say that. I did not follow up with her. I'm sorry.
Okay, so that would be interesting because what we hear locally is, that's a unique skill set and it's impossible to find people, and the people that are doing it for others. So we kind of become.
An updated thought on that, maybe first I go to the M Parks group and find out if anyone in Knuckles North is using grant writers. And then go to someone maybe on a national level. I can do
So
both.
I'm okay with that. So for items 2 and 3, we'll defer to getting some information on grant writers, and we'll take that as an ongoing discussion. Storage Township, I think, Michelle, I just heard you're going to deal with the getting the stuff in and out of Dave's place.
Yes.
Bylaw revision. I have a list of things that I want to talk to Jennifer about just to kind of make the relationship between Parks and Rec. It's been an interesting time for me. I haven't been able to be around much, but hopefully that's going to get resolved. And that's one of the items that's on the list is the actual signed bylaw revision. Donation policy, never mind. History committee, well, we know where we are on that. Sign project stays with us. I did want to mention though, what I should have mentioned last month at the board meeting, to be more formal with our membership. Michelle, I am assuming that I should ask board approval for you to be renewed for one more 3-year session starting April 1st.
Oh.
Michelle.
She got me into this.
Yes. What about you though, Vic?
Yeah, what I would mention to them is also that, I filled in a spot that expired in 2000 or in 2023, but they haven't booted me off yet. So I'm going to ask that besides you taking a 3-year extension, that they approve that I remain on duty till my term expires, which is next March. So I'll go forward with those 2 recommendations. And I think unless anybody else on the team has something, we're about to get the public comment.
I have one thing, it's Sherry Miller. I hate to even say these words. On the park signs, it seems like I remember we talked about the QRG code being put on like this part, like the survey thing is what I was thinking of, and I'm thinking of all the people that come through our township and go to North Point and go to the beach. We want a survey, they're not gonna go to our website. But you have a QRG code there for those youngins with all their little phones. Yeah, I didn't like it, or yeah, it was cool. If we don't make it easier to access, and maybe this is something that comes next year, right? Start with our surveys on the
Well-
website for Parks and Rec, but
There are QR codes on the signs for each of the parks that takes them to the main page of the parks, and that's where you'll click on the survey.
okay, but we,
So it'll go directly to the survey.
once we
in
get
essence.
to the website, once the surveys are published, the website has to be really intuitive.
Well,
Here's the
so
survey.
I mean, if you wanna look up Port St. Lucie, Florida, theirs is dead center when, on their cover page. I don't do web, so I'm not talking web speak, but when you open theirs, right there, one of the biggest things you see is, you know, at least it was last time I looked. It was, you know, take our survey, give us feedback.
That's my
So
public
it was like,
comment.
it was not buried.
I don't want it buried because they're
And
not
since
gonna
the
make
signs
it.
are all published, the QR code goes to there, at least it should, when you're out and about, you know, practice, you know, take one.
Okay.
Now, those signs are not necessarily always, you know, right there when you get out of the car. Well, Glen Park, yeah, maybe
No, but
they're all
you
there.
put on the big signs, like,
They're on the big
you know, when people look at something, but yes, you're understanding what I'm trying to convey. I
Yeah,
just wanna
don't
make
bury it.
sure it's screaming
Easy,
and easy
yeah.
to get.
Yeah, yes.
Otherwise, it's useless.
And we are gonna be able to start putting a phone number on there, because we have had things like, oh my gosh, there's wasps at Glen Park. I know we need to wrap it up, anyway. There will be a phone number that comes to my phone, not that I'm on call 24/7, but very often, and it's a completely different ring. So I know if it's an incoming parks. And then if I don't answer it, I get a text with whatever message they send, so that we don't have this, there's a, you know, the township is closed, there's a wasp nest on the bridge at Glen Park. I get an email, right?
Yeah.
We can synchronize for that, that's part of what Vic and I talked about.
Well, the other thing is that, you know, each of us has an assignment of taking a look at the website, and that was earlier in today's discussion. And where is that? Michelle did that this month, last month, and right now we have got, oh, so Chelsea, you have April. So your job is to go out and take a look at our website and give us suggestions and that sort of thing. And I guess one comment I'll make about the suggestion of making sure that it's not buried. Understand that completely. I know that there's been some challenges with where we put things on the trails site. So I'm very familiar with that challenge. We have a vendor that provides us the format for the website. And what you see on our current website is sort of the format we have to live with. On the left side, it's got on the left nav, there's like 5 or 6 bars that we try to minimize so that, you know, it's broad categories and you go there. Our vendor is now changing us to a new website format, and exactly when that's happening, I don't know. I think we'll have some more flexibility, but we just have to make it as easy to use within the constraints that our vendor has given us. So, but I really appreciate the comments that I got from Michelle last month, and Chelsea, looking forward to getting some new eyes on it and giving me some suggestions there as well. Any other public comment? Any other group comment? Okay, meeting adjourned at 10:02. We can stop the recording.
Okay, does anybody know how to stop the recording?
Thank you.
I guess text John.
Oh, sure, okay.
He lives here in Manistee.
John.
I'll talk to him personally.